This is an interview with Mr. Money Mustache about happiness. It's just an excerpt, and we talk about what his blog is really about. If you want to check out the full interview, follow the link in the description, and thanks for checking it out.
I wrote out this outline. I didn't tell you we were going to pitch you, but I was thinking about it, Pete. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to talk about index funds or the 4% rule. That shit has been gone over enough. And I've thought a lot about your blog in the past, and I think it's about a lot of different things. I think the hook that gets people in there is money, but I think it's like down deep, it's really about happiness, because a lot of this stuff, like if you get money right and you get all this other stuff right, you're just overall going to be a happier person. It turns out it's all related to there's a lot of common themes in there, like efficiency and having a small footprint and not being a big consumer. But I think at the end, it all comes down to happiness. Would you agree, or am I full of shit?
Yeah, you're definitely right. And it's part of that has been my own journey, like over the 12 years of writing this blog. Like at first I was a 36-year-old, right? When I was writing it. So I'm like, I'm excited to be early retired and I'm going to share some of these lessons about money. And then as I went through that, I realized like, well, why do we care about having money and like what else? And I was increasingly like spending more and more years as an early retiree and realizing like, what are the challenges in life and what is it that makes life joyful and why am I happy to be retired and what problems still come up despite being financially all set. So that's why my writing has changed and moved on to talk more about these things. And yeah, it really helps to understand happiness from like what it really means and what causes it in humans and what causes unhappiness and stress. So it's super cool. So I go through like all these books and other podcasts and things like that teach you those things, and I can bring home the lessons and try to share it with my readers and then get them interested in the same stuff. So it's really just like one man's journey through life and like successes and failures, and then trying to package them up as life lessons, which is why it's not really, about any one particular thing. And then what it really comes back to is for me, being like a science-oriented person, I think of everything in terms of science. So understanding myself as a creature, like a human being, and how other human beings, we have these similarities. The more you understand humanity itself and like how we evolved and why we exist, with our preferences and like why do we love some things and hate other things. If you understand that better, then you can make your life meet the natural conditions of being a human better. And cognitive biases are one of these things too. It helps you avoid falling into the traps that everybody falls into. So a really fun project is learning about humanity, applying it, design your own life to press the right buttons. And then you end up with, I think, with like a happier and happier life, the better you get at this interesting skill.
At the most basic level, happiness is a chemical reaction in the brain. Therefore, we act in certain ways to create that reaction in the brain. What is happiness to you? Or is there a better word for it, like contentment, maybe?
Yeah, that's true. There's some people use different words, like happiness researchers. There's like joy, and then there's fulfillment and meaningfulness, and like they all mean slightly different things. And then there's pleasure, which is kind of the more simple things, just like, you got this great steak dinner and a strong whiskey or whatever. And that's like, those kind of things are moment by moment pleasure. And by understanding how all those things relate and how to seek each one in the right quantities, that's more likely to be a recipe for long-term happiness. Because of course, the shortest term happiness would just be like taking, a drug like heroin or cocaine or whatever, because like your hormones are flooded just for that few minutes. And you're like, I feel on top of the world. I feel great, right? It's like the most shallow form of happiness. But objectively, your life is going to suck more and more the more you do these things. So the challenge is thinking about like the short term and the long term and designing a life where you feel as good as possible over like, on average, over the longest period. So to do that stuff, it's much more like my most recent blog post from Andrew Huberman's teachings, stuff like outdoor access and sunlight and activity and health and food and sleep. All those things are like much more reliable sources of life happiness. And of course, social, friends and meaningful connections and being nice to people. So a pretty long list, but what it really breaks down to is a package of activities that you try to put into each day as often as you can. And that ends up being, on average, a pretty nice, happy life that can keep getting better and better.